Welcome back to On Texas Football, special live edition of On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe. He's CJ Vogel. We're down on the 40 acres. Just wrapped up a player availability. One camp practice in the books today. The Longhorns got after it this morning. First scrimmage coming up on Saturday. CJ, that's always one of those landmark events of camp. Met with DJ Campbell, Tre Wisner, Liona Lefau, Malik Muhammad, all four of those guys today. CJ, any big picture takeaways from you today?
Yeah, hearing from these four, I mean, look, guys that have been around the program for 3 years at least. You know, Lefau, Malik Muhammad, Tre Wisner, all three have been together for 3 years. You got DJ going into year 4. These guys have been around the program for years, and the way that they kind of glowed about the competitiveness and the juice, we heard that pretty often today, Jeff, about fall camp right now. That's encouraging, again, as we build up to that August 30th.
I like what Liona Lefau said, and Sark, I don't think it's any secret that, this was a big Nick Saban-ism, big Nick Saban talking point, was being process-oriented, not result-oriented, or, looking at the end result, just trying to respect the process. And, Liona Lefau said Sark kind of compared their journey. Look, the goal is to win a national championship. Nobody's shying away from that we've talked to this year for this team. I think that's a really good thing, because I think we can all agree, CJ, this is one of maybe the most talented. But I do like that, Liona Lefau and Sark is compared it to climbing a mountain. They're going for the summit, but they got to make sure they got their footing, take it one step at a time. I know that sounds cliche in coach speak, but I just kind of like the mental where this team is at right now.
Yeah, we heard it from Malik Muhammad a few times as well, just making sure that they're taking it day by day, to your point, Jeff. I think defensively, that's a lot of where their emphasis has been. You can't be the best team in the country if you don't take care of practice number 2 and full pads in fall camp, right? So Texas, they have that circled on their calendar. Be the best in the country. On top of that, they'll win a national championship. And that's where these guys, we heard that often from the 2 defensive players that we heard today. I think it's going to be really encouraging. Again, Jeff, is there's a lot of continuity despite being, quote-unquote, a younger team in that back end. So on top of that, my biggest takeaway was hearing from DJ Campbell for the first time in his Texas career, just being out there with the media saying, and we'll talk about this, but I left a lot on my plate, Jeff, and I think that offensive line a year ago left a lot on its plate as well. How can DJ be a guy that leads this group into that unit being a total plus in 2025?
Yeah, Sark has mentioned it with DJ Campbell. Kyle Flood's mentioned it with DJ Campbell. Just him being more consistent. And I love the terminology he used today, CJ, talking about, hey, he understands it's now or never. And, could DJ Campbell be to the offense this year what Alfred Collins was to the defense last year, a guy that came in as a 5-star prospect and you'd seen flashes, but you're just kind of waiting for him to put it all together. Alfred put it all together. He ends up being a second-round pick. I don't know that if DJ Campbell puts it all together, he's a second-round pick. I don't want to prognosticate that. But if he does put it together, CJ, then you're talking about, again, I think a potentially dominant interior of your offensive line with DJ Campbell, Nenu Mazzullo, and Cole Hudson at center. I think that group can combine to give Texas a better push in the run game than what they got last year from that group of Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, and DJ Campbell or Cole Hudson, whichever one was playing at the time. And I think we forget Cole Hudson did play quite a few snaps last year. He hadn't started the game since his freshman year, but he's played some pretty significant snaps over the last 2 years. So all that said, CJ, I like where DJ Campbell's at from a mindset standpoint based on what he told us today.
Yeah, I agree. He called it his now or never time as well. And look, going into year 4, this is his now or never, right? To be that NFL draft pick, to live up to that 5-star potential coming out of high school. Let's see it. And he's in the best shape of his career as a Texas Longhorn. And the one thing that was really encouraging, again, going back to that offensive line in that unit, he said there's no drop-off that he's noticed, or there's no difference in what he's noticed between a Cole Hudson and Jake Majors at that center position. Of course, that is the quarterback of your offensive line. And so far, it's sounding like Cole Hudson's taking the prerequisite steps to being a plus on that offensive line.
I like the fact that when he talked about leadership, he said he's tried to take on more of it. Cole Hudson's tried to take on more of it. But he also mentioned Trevor Gooseby. I think that needs to be kind of reinforced from some of the stuff we heard today that Trevor Gooseby's not just there to be on the freaks list and be looked at as a future NFL prospect. Like, he's legit taking his role as left tackle seriously. And CJ, I just think like Texas could be on the verge of something special, going from Kelvin Banks potentially to Trevor Gooseby, then maybe to Nick Brooks. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but maybe we can get to a point where playing left tackle at Texas is going to mean something.
Hey, and the rave reviews about Nick Brooks, Jeff, that we heard from DJ today, sign me up. The guy that's gone about it the right way. According to DJ also said that, you expect him to play the field pretty early. That offensive line unit, look, I want to see it on the field, but it sounds like they're taking the right steps in practice. And 2 full pad practices in, that's what you want to hear, especially going against this defensive front seven.
Let's go to Tre Wisner real quick. It lights up a room anytime he walks into it. Just brings a lot of juice, a lot of energy. I got excited. We heard actually from Liona Lefau and from Tre Wisner both some pretty encouraging statements about CJ Baxter's health and his prognosis. Tre did say it's pretty scary to think about what he and CJ Baxter can do as a 1-2 punch whenever CJ Baxter's healthy. I like the fact, too, that the health of the running back room, it almost seems like it's lit in a fire under Tre Wisner. I mean, that fire was burning pretty bright already, but it just seemed like his sense of urgency, CJ, and I think, again, we'll talk about this in a second with Malik Muhammad, when these guys get into their first draft eligible year, it's almost like now they're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't mean like they're looking to lead Texas, but look, especially in the situations some of these guys are in, look, things like winning a national championship, being a draft pick, like all of that stuff is within their grasp. And I like the fact, we've seen some Texas teams in the past where that's been kind of a negative thing, and we've seen that entitlement creep in. That's not the case with this group. I don't think that's been the case throughout Sark's tenure, but it's not the case with this group. This group seems really hungry. Hungry is the word I've used, CJ, for the last 2 years to describe where this program is at, whether it's people in the building, staffers, coaches, players. I just think Tre Wisner kind of embodies that hunger that this whole program has, that getting to the semifinals is great, but they want to win an SEC championship. They want to win a national championship.
Yeah, starting with Tre, look, that was a guy who wasn't the highest-rated recruit. He wasn't even the highest-rated running back recruit in the Texas class, right? He was a guy that had to earn everything that he's fought for so far in his career, and that started on special teams. But to be the only 1,000-yard rushing running back returning in 2025, that's pretty significant. And I don't think, Tre's kind of leaning on that as what his success will be in 2025, but I think Texas fans certainly should feel like there's a very solid floor with him on the field. But I will say this about Tre. Bringing the juice is something that he will always be a big positive with. Like, that is what he does. Again, a large reason why he was able to see the field as early as he was, energy and hustle. And on top of that, he's got that moxie, Jeff. And so the way that he talked about getting on the field for these young guys is to do so via special teams. Yeah, it's going back in the past for what his own path to the field was as a Texas Longhorn. And I can't not mention, but Tre also said that, there's a lot of smack talk going on. And he said, what are the 2 things that have really started to change in terms of how he's approached being his mindset as a running back here? Well, here it is.
For one, definitely eating right. I had to gain some few pounds, put some weight on. So definitely changing my eating habits, learn how to eat like a pro. And then another thing was really just talking smack to the defense players. I see you back there, Lion. Players like Lion, but just really tapping into the defense, because like at the end of the day, as much as we want to go out and beat on other teams, it starts within ourselves. So as much as they compete against me, I try to compete against them. And really just bring guys with me, bring the young guys with me, and just show them, like, if you want things done, you got to bow your neck and get it done.
I love that.
Yeah, more so CJ than Sark drinking Gatorade out of a can the other day at the availability. I didn't know that, males age 18 to 22, that they were still big McDonald's connoisseurs. So it's good to know the more things change, the more they stay the same in this world. So Tre did say he's had to cut out a lot of McDonald's. But going back to your point, the money quote from him to me was the message from the staff has been, unless you're a franchise player, you're going to make it in the league. You're going to have to make it in the league playing on special teams. So you might
Very
as well
much
get
so.
used to it now. And I think for this program, like, look, all Sark has to do is be like, look, Roschon Johnson was, a fourth-round draft pick, pretty highly thought of. Everybody loved Roschon, played on every special team. So, and I think Tre Wisner now, I think, is the perfect example, because I go back to his freshman year, CJ, the way he would just sacrifice his body covering kicks. I just kept thinking, man, if that translates to running back, just that intensity, that relentlessness, that translates to when he's got the ball in his hands, you might have something here. And it turns out, lo and behold, they had something there last year where they really needed it from him. They gave him a 1,000-yard season. Let's go on to Leona Lefau. I want to get your thoughts on this, because Rod and I talked about this for Football Theory, which actually be up on the channel today at some point. When we talk about the defense, he talked about Trey Moore, he talked about Anthony Hill, and he even was asked about Brad Spence. That Brad Spence is a physical, violent football player, which I think that got everybody's ears kind of perked up. But as I'm listening to him talk, as I'm thinking about his role, CJ, you've got all these guys that are pass rushers, that are dynamic players. Now you need somebody to just hold the fort down, just to kind of be the guy that brings everything back together. Like I think about Roderick McElroy on the 2009 Texas defense did that. Jalen Ford has been that guy for Texas. I think CJ Leona Lefau, that's a role that it might not be the sexiest role in the world, but I think it's a role that's not only important, but it's a role he can play very, very well.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be the guy coming after the quarterback and playing behind the line of scrimmage. He's good at that, right? Remember when he was on the field a year ago, a lot of his big plays were forced fumbles. He had a safety in a game in which he was, diagnosing a quick run and getting behind the line of scrimmage immediately. But when it comes to those chess pieces that we've talked about all offseason, getting after the quarterback, you need someone to man the base, right? As the hunters go out and find food, someone's got to take care of the house and make sure that, your space is taken care of. And, I don't mean that disrespectfully to Leona Lefau, but he's got that skill set to play in space and play that pass coverage just a little bit more than what you will with a Trey Moore or even an Anthony Hill at times. And I think Ty Anthony Smith is a guy that we're also going to see a lot of in that role. And Leonga mentioned that today. He said, yeah, I need Ty Anthony Smith to push me in this pass coverage world, to push me in that linebacking position. So far, Jeff, it sounds like there's been a pretty solid balance between that linebacking room.
Leona Lefau's he's like Jon Snow, Game of Thrones. I mean, pre-death and resurrection. Sorry, Game of Thrones spoilers for anybody that hasn't watched it. But you're on the Night's Watch, man. You're out there. You're kind of all alone. Everybody forgets about you, but you got a really freaking important job, because you got to protect, your realm from the White Walkers. So I know I use that Game of Thrones analogy poorly, but that's kind of what Leona Lefau is, CJ. He's on that Night's Watch, and that's his job. And again, I think he could do it really, really well. Let's go to Malik Muhammad. And by the way, get your questions lined up. We'll take a few questions before we get out of here. But let's go to Malik Muhammad. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot on the channel is the guys doing a better job. And Sark praised the secondary recently. Guys doing a better job of playing the ball, making plays on the ball. Malik Muhammad said he spent a ton of time on the jugs machine really throughout the spring and summer. And it sounds like that's really starting to pay off for him, because we've heard he even cracked a smile today and admitted that, yeah, he has gotten Arch Manning in camp already in terms of interceptions. This defense has been really active. Warren Roberson's name has popped up when those conversations have happened. Jelani McDonald, Sark mentioned him the other day. CJ, I mentioned it at the top with DJ Campbell talking about a now or never moment. Malik was asked about, hey, is this a contract year for you? And he said he's not thinking about that right now, but yeah, that's kind of the angle he's going for. Look, again, guys are starting to see, all right, it's your draft eligible year. Now you need to kick it on the high year. I just think this is a season, CJ, where everybody's going to get reminded how good of a football player Malik Muhammad is, because last year teams got to a point where, wisely so, they just decided, look, we're not going to throw the ball at Janae Barron's side of the field because diminishing returns, the juice is not worth the squeeze. So Muhammad kind of got picked on a little bit, and Rod talked about it because Rod's been in that corner too, but I think this is going to be a year where we all get reminded that this guy was a big-time prospect coming out of South Oak Cliff. Great freshman year. Maybe not the sophomore year that he wanted to have, but I think that junior year is going to be good enough to where he'll have a really tough decision to make after the year.
Yeah, Josh, I completely agree. And Jeff, going back to your point, it's when these guys get the idea that, hey, I could go to the NFL after this year, that work amplifies. And we've certainly heard that today with Malik Muhammad saying he's been on the jugs machine. He had 2 interceptions on Tuesday in practice as well. He smiled pretty widely when asked if he has picked off Arch Manning already in practice. And again, his body language told a different story than his words when asked, is this a contract year? He said, no, I'm not trying to think about that right now. But other than that, he kind of hinted at that, at least having done this a few years, Jeff. That question throws off a lot of players. And for Manning, I think he kind of sat there and said, I'd like it to be. I'd like this to be the year in which I'm off to the NFL afterward. My 3rd year, I'm draft eligible. I want to put together a season that gets me into that NFL contract money right away. But on top of that, look, you got to go prove it, right? It's got to be a bounce back year. Again, I didn't think it was a bad 2024, but maybe not to the standard in which he hoped. And on top of that, he's got a lot of guys right now that are looking to him to be that, that older statesman in the room, in which he said, I'm kind of becoming that guy along with Coach Orfe, wanting to get these guys out of their shell in that cornerback room. The one thing I want to add on here, he was asked which guy is standing out amongst the freshmen. Immediately, Grayson Littleton was mentioned. We've talked about Grayson Littleton all fall camp so far. And when asked who in that star room, that nickelback room, is really starting to make headwaves, he named 4 guys, right? John McDonald, Michael Taft, he added Wardell Mack, and, of course, Grayson Littleton. And Wardell Mack, Grayson Littleton received some extra praise in terms of guys who are really starting to make headwaves at that star spot right now.
By the way, just for the record, was told today he does not want to go by Manny. He wants to go by Malik. So we'll just get that out of the way. Again, I don't think that's not the whole point of what we're talking about here, but just thought I'd throw that in there. Was told it that while we were leaving that he does want to go by Malik. But at any rate, I think one thing I like too that he said was Dwayne Akina has encouraged the defensive backs to all go watch those goal tapes that he puts together, because it's not just Coach Akina. Again, I keep reinforcing this about Dwayne Akina's return to Texas. It's not just to bring all the DBU guys back and talk about stories from the glory days. Like, he wants guys to be inspired by a Quentin Jammer or an Aaron Ross, a Quandre Diggs, a Kenny Vaccaro. Man, be inspired by guys that were in the same room as you, that were first-round picks, that have played in the NFL, that were All-Americans, that have won Super Bowls. They've been to Pro Bowls. The DB tradition runs deep here, and we can talk about bringing DBU back, but see, the bottom line is Dwayne Akina wouldn't have come back to Texas. He wouldn't have taken this job if he didn't think the personnel was there for this to be a really special secondary. And I talked to him when the assistants were available recently, and he's excited about the personnel. But I think it's the opportunity to get a guy like Malik Muhammad to that next level where, just reinforce it. This guy is a guy that's probably going to be a top 3 round pick in the draft if everything clicks. So, just again, it's not just kind of rehashing old stuff for the sake of rehashing it. When Dwayne Akina tells these guys to watch the tapes, it means something.
That's exactly it. He said, I want to be on that money wall. And of course, that money wall has made a lot of money to your point about the Texas DBs over the years. He said he didn't know who coached them immediately. And then once he heard that it was Dwayne Akina to get all those guys up on the walls, to produce those first round picks, he said, I've been over the moon to be able to work with him and Coach Orfe this season.
All right, CJ, let's answer some questions real quick and then we'll wrap it up. Roger asked CJ, are you going to Columbus? We need the hat tradition on an OSU statue.
No, not that hat tradition. I'm putting it on the statue. We're going to find a way to do just that. I'll be up there in Columbus, no doubt. Super excited for it.
Columbus, Ohio is a different animal, and I would tread lightly. I would proceed with caution. My nephew's an Ohio State grad, but I like to say he's one of the sane Ohio State fans that I interact with. So, but there are the reputation precedes them, and I think for Ohio State fans, they deservedly so. Roger with another question. CJ and Jeff, how often do you all run into OTF fans outside like now? Shoot, man, CJ, I don't know about you, but I've been in restaurants, grocery store, one time leaving my daughter's select volleyball practice. Like, it's pretty much everywhere. And we wouldn't be here doing what we're doing if it wasn't for the support that we get. So anytime any subscriber, listener, viewer comes up and has something positive to say, don't be shy, man. Just introduce yourself and we'll chop it up for a little bit. But I love interacting with people out in Gen Pop.
Absolutely. It's the same thing for me. Really cool. So hopefully it'll happen often this upcoming season.
Ike says the Night's Watch analogy for Lefau is perfection. Yeah, it's a thankless job. And you know what? Malik Muhammad mentioned when he was asked about receivers that have been tough to cover in camp, he mentioned DeAndre Moore. CJ, I think that's maybe not quite to the extent that we're talking about with Liona Lefau, but that's kind of DeAndre Moore's role on offense. Like, he doesn't probably get talked about as much as, there's a lot of excitement about Ryan Wingo and Emmett Mosley coming in. And guys got asked about Jack injuries again today. We talk about the freshman receivers, but I think we forget, like, DeAndre Moore is the only draft-eligible receiver in that room. And I could really see him being – he and Emmett Mosley are the two guys that I feel like they could be for Arch, like what Lil Jordan Humphrey was for Sam Ehlinger and what Jordan Whittington was for Quinn. As that guy, man, when it's crunch time, it's 3rd and 5, and you got to have it. That's where they're going to go with the football.
Yeah, just a thankless position, a thankless job. And for DeAndre Moore, very much like Malik, going into that money year, I'm excited to see how they elevate their game, not just on the field, but in the locker room as a leader of this Texas football team.
CJ, last question here from Burnt Orange Horn. Who has more reps at star this year, Grayson Littleton or Michael Taft? Any thoughts on that?
I think Grayson Littleton. Look, Michael Taft and his ability to play center field and be a really valuable piece there. I think he's that deep more than he is playing that star. I think Grayson Littleton's quicker, more fleet of foot. And when you're in that man coverage, in which Texas likes to use and will likely use more of to get this pass rush, the ability to pin its ears back, I think Grayson Littleton's going to be that guy. Don't sleep on Wardell Mack either. I would choose both of them right now over Michael Taft in that spot.
I think it could be opponent game plan specific, but I love the fact that they've got options. Even if, one of the other corners, if a Warren Roberson ends up being a starting caliber guy, now you've got the flexibility if you want to kick Jalen Gilbo back inside. So I just think the options are plentiful. Che Ding asks, can we get an update on Wingo? Will he be at practice today, scrimmage on Saturday? Yeah, we'll practice let out, I don't know, probably about 10:30 this morning. So we'll check on it. The plan was to get him back on the field today, see if he could handle full practice. But he'll be back at some point. CJ, I can't say this definitively, but I would doubt we see him or hear about him much, if at all, in the scrimmage on Saturday, unless he's just 100%, no restrictions, and they feel comfortable turning him loose.
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, Texas has been very careful with a lot of these guys who have been nicked up. Michael Taft was in a green jersey on Tuesday. I was told that he was not in a green jersey today. So, again, when nicks, bruises, cuts, bruises, whatever, they're making sure that it's not a lingering effect for a lot of these guys with Ohio State 23 days away.
Not just that. I mean, it's a long season. If you're planning on winning a national championship, you're going into the middle of January. You're talking about a 15, 16, maybe even, if Texas would have played for it last year, it would have been a 17-game season. So I mean, you're talking playing like a full-on legit NFL schedule. So, yeah, it's you got to make sure your guys are there for the long haul and that everybody is good to go. All right, thank you, everybody, for the questions. We will have more from Tre Wisner, DJ Campbell, Malik Muhammad, and Liona Lefau. We'll have more over at ontexasfootball.com. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, make sure you get over there right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Also, don't forget to like this video and make sure you are subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're up to date on the latest and greatest happening on the 40 acres. As we press along, CJ, 23 days away from kickoff between Texas and Ohio State. Again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for all your questions and your participation. CJ, thank you for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. If we didn't get to your question or you've got more questions, actually, you can get them to CJ here in just a few hours on The Winning Drive with Rob Babers and Coach Shipley. Coffee and football, again, bright and early tomorrow morning. We've also got the Friday afternoon live stream with myself, Rod, and Jerry. So plenty of opportunities to get questions into the OTF staff if we didn't get to those today. For CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, welcome.